Listen, I get terrible on names, even people that I know for a long time. So I wrote his name down on my hand just so I got up here and did not forget his name. I'm going to ask Dennis to come up at this time. Probably a lot of you know this man. He is a very unique and special fella if you know him. I've known him for probably about 150 years now. And he just has one of the most cheerful, pleasant, brightest outlooks on life of anyone that I've ever been around. In case you do not know this, he has been mistaken for Chuck Norris. He has been, and that is a unique story. I hope you maybe just tell a little bit about that. Okay. He has been mistaken for Chuck Norris. And he is going to tell us this morning about what the Lord has done in his life. I've told him to take all the time that he needs. So, Pastor, if he infringes wherever you are, if he infringes upon your time. He has a pretty good voice like I do. So I'm going to pray for him and for our class, and then we're going to get started. Father, just now we come to you. You're an awesome God. You're awesome in many respects, but we're so deeply appreciative for the love that you have for us as individuals. We're so appreciative for the love that you have for us as broken and fallen people, but we're so appreciative to you for the fact that we are your masterpiece. We are your creation. We are something that you are constantly working on, improving and moving us toward where you want us to be. And Father, we so much look forward to that day when we shall be forever with you, united with you in heaven, when all of what we go through down here is just a past experience. So Father, give us a good morning. I pray especially for Dennis right now. Lord, help him to not be more nervous than necessary. Give him very clarity of mind that he can put all the things in order and remember them as you have given to him, and as sure as he has rehearsed over and over. And just in a special way, be with him, and in a special way, just be with us as we hear about what you have done in his life. We all ask this all in Jesus' name. Amen. Dennis.
All me, huh? All right. Am I on now? All right, thank you. Get my tools out here. All right, first of all, we'll get the Chuck Norris thing out of the way. Over the years, people thought I was Chuck Norris, looked like Chuck Norris. I had a couple of stories that I had run into already. I had gone down to the hospital one time. I have a problem with cellulitis. I went down to the hospital. Our daughter was coming in from Kansas, and we decided to go through. On the way home, I said, I'll just go through Kentucky Fried Chicken down there and get a bucket of chicken and all the fixings, and we don't have to worry about cooking when she gets here. Well, anyhow, I pulled up to the window. I ordered it through the drive-thru, pulled up to the window. The young girl was in there, and she goes, it's $7. And I'm there, no, this should be about a $30 thing, you know. So anyhow, she keeps it up, and finally she disappeared. So anyways, the guy comes back, and he comes back. He says, you have to excuse her. She's in here telling everybody Chuck Norris is out here. I mean, my glasses were real dark and everything, and I had a darker beard and everything. But anyways, they thought I was Chuck Norris. And then another lady, one time I was working, there used to be a little gas station out where Molly's Ice Cream is. And a lady came in there one time, and she goes, you know, you look a lot like Chuck Norris. And I was just in one of them moods that day to have a little fun. So I told her, I said, yeah, I said, I got hurt. I used to be his stunt man. I said, I got hurt doing one of his stunts. She goes, well, how did you do that? I said, well, if you watch Invasion USA, I said, when he's coming out of the mall on the side of the pickup truck on there, that was me. I said, I got caught between that and the cement pillar there. I got real busy, and she turns it, so I never did go back to tell her any different. So she comes in the next day and tells the mechanic, she goes, hey, tell Chuck I saw where he got hurt last night. But anyhow, that was I started getting to the point where I have a little fun with it every now and then. But all seriousness, as far as my testimony goes, I grew up. My mom and dad were really great parents. They took us to church. I grew up in the Lutheran church out where Will's Church used to be. Will's Church is Faith Lutheran Church now. We went through the catechism thing and all that. Be honest with you, I don't even remember any of going through that anymore, exactly how it went. But as I grew up, we went to church on Sundays, and until I turned about 16 years old, I kind of, just got away from it altogether. I mean, I quit going to church altogether. So our whole family quit going, more or less. And till I graduated high school, I got out of school. I got a job working on a strip mine, running dozer and high lift and stuff, and I really liked that. I was making good money. You're going along. Now, I did invite one guy here today. He didn't come. He wasn't able to come, I guess. But when I was working for the last company I worked for, we used to call him Preacher Bill. He'd come out there and he was telling you all about God all the time. Well, you're young. I mean, I was 20 years old, and you know how it is when you're young. You don't really pay attention to all that and stuff, and you're living your life. I mean, I had all the toys. I had a new truck. I had snowmobiles, motorcycles. I mean, I thought life was just great. But then it came along. By the time I was 3 months before I was 21. Well, before that, I had worked over here at Thoroughfare when I was in high school. This whole area is very memorable because we used to live right out here past used to be the state hospital, anyways. And then I worked here at Thoroughfare, and by the time I turned almost 21 years old, I wrecked my motorcycle right out here on this road going towards Berlin, right before you get to Berlin Lumber out there. But that was an experience and a half there. It was just a nice Sunday afternoon. There was a gang of us. It was 3 of us that day. Usually we had like 6 or 8 guys riding motorcycles, but that day we only had 3. And we were going down the road here, and there was a lady. I guess she went to turn, and didn't see any turn signals or whatever. And he went to go around her. He smacked into right between the door and the fender. I saw his bike flying in pieces. I never did see what happened to him. And the next thing you know, I woke up, or I was laying alongside the road. I don't remember ever sliding down the road. I don't remember doing anything. They said it slid over 100 feet. I don't know. But I was laying there along the road, and all I know is I was in severe pain. It broke my back. I broke T11, 12, and L1. And when the one kid that wrecked his motorcycle, it was in front of me, he come up. He was okay. They said he actually flew 40 feet in the air and landed on his face. He walked away with scratches. He had to get stitches in his elbow. But I'm laying there alongside the road, and it just felt like somebody took a saw and cut your whole legs right off. I mean, my first question was when he came up, I said, "Where are my legs at?" Because I mean, you would think, common sense, you would have thought you were bleeding to death if you got your legs cut off, but I couldn't feel a thing. And he goes, "No," he says, "you're okay." He said, "Everything's there." I said, "Man," it just feels like they're cut off. And so the ambulance came, or before the ambulance came, I'm laying there, and this funeral goes by. And it's like they've got these people to go by, and I'm there. First thing I did is I brought my hand up around to my face. I'm not dead. I can still move. And it's like, it was in high school, you used to see those movies where the guy's laying down over the bank, and he's hollering, "I'm still alive, I'm over here," but no one can hear him because he's really not hollering. It's just all in his mind, And that's why first thing I did is brought my hand up to my face. I'm still alive. I don't need a hearse, Anyways, they took me into the hospital, and I used to look pretty rough back in them. You think my hair's long now. I used to look a lot rougher. My wife can attest to that because I had long hair. It hung out underneath the motorcycle helmet, and I had a beard that stuck way down. I didn't own a shirt with sleeves in them. I mean, the hospital up in Pittsburgh actually asked me if I was a member of the Hells Angels. You know, I had the wide leather watch bands, and all that stuff, and the boots with spikes in them, and everything else. And it was. I had the whole get up. But, anyways, they said, "Do you remember the Hells Angels?" And I says, "No." They said, "Do you belong to the Pagans?" I says, "No." I said, "We're just a small group of people back in a little town called Somerset that goes riding on the afternoon." And I thought, well, I better clean my act up after that a little bit. But you would have thought, the thing of it is, God has worked in my life He worked up in my life up to that point. He brought different people into my life, even though I wasn't saved yet. Looking back, I can tell you this now. He brought people into my life and started the path down the road to where I am now. The guy I used to work with that always was talking about God on a strip job, that was one person who came into it. And you kind of ignored that. And you would have thought I would have turned to God more after I got hurt. But I'm kind of, my wife can tell you, I'm very independent and bullheaded. But I thought I could do this all on my own. And, you started getting better. As time went on, I got everything back down to my knees. My feet never worked, so I had to wear short leg braces and to hold your feet up. And I thought I was doing great as time went on. And so it went quite a few years after my accident. Well, I'll tell you a little bit about being in the rehab center. I was in the emergency or in intensive care for a whole week, and I spent 3 weeks in the hospital. And then they took me to a rehab center for 3 months. Well, when I got there, that was a whole other story. You were there, and it was one of them days that I really didn't want to be. Everyone was always, the worst thing they could tell you is there's always someone worse than you are. That's what they kind of pushed on you, Well, yeah, I was perfect before as far as I was concerned, and I wanted to be that way again. And I didn't want to hear that there's someone worse off, which there was a lot of people in there worse off than I was. And so, anyways, I went. It was pouring down rain one day and thunder and lightning, and you had to go out through the rain and through this solarium, but it was outside to get into this other place. I went out there, and I was mad, and I wasn't saved yet or anything, but, you go out there, and I just stopped in the middle of the thing and just said, either kill, it was thunder and lightning, and I said, either kill me or cure me. One or the other. I just wanted to be normal again. Well, of course, these people saw that in there, and they send you in front of a psychiatrist, of course. Well, that wasn't a good thing. So I played with that guy so bad until he got done. He needed one himself. So. Anyhow, we had a meeting, and they go, he's not suicidal. He's just crazy. He said, don't worry about it. So anyhow, I got out of there, and it was you were allowed to go home over the weekend, but you had to come back the same day. So my dad come up one day, and he goes, he said, I tore the clutch out of my truck. He says, if you could come home for one day, he said, at least come home. He said, and help me put it in, because I always helped him fix his truck and stuff. So I go home. They came up and got me and took me home that day. Well, I never went back that night. I went back the next day, which that was something I heard about then. But anyhow, I had a cast on from right underneath here down to my waist. And I got there, and Dad was having a problem. I said, all right, fine. I had a creeper there that I built it the size of a body, and I could lay on it. My dad would slide me under the truck. I said, just slide me under the truck. I said, I'll help you get this out of here. So anyhow, I pulled the transmission out and set it down on that cast, of course, because it was, it's a cast. It'll hold that. So anyhow, we got it out. We put the clutch in, and I went back the next day. And, of course, this cast is all covered in grease and everything. And they go, what were you doing this weekend? I said, well, we put a clutch in my dad's truck. They said, we don't think we're going to let you go home anymore. It was a real experience and everything as you go along. I've seen a lot of people in there in bad shape. I don't have nothing against motorcycles. I would probably get on another one again if I could possibly ride one. I had people in there that leaned over a swimming pool, fell into the swimming pool with pulling their kids out, and broke their neck, and they were paralyzed from their neck down. A guy fell off his back porch and broke his neck. I've lost contact over the years with all these people. I don't know whatever happened to them, but you felt sorry for them because they were worse off than you. I mean, there is people always worse off, but you still don't want to hear that there's people worse than you. You want to be back to normal again. But technically, I'm glad what happened, and I'm glad I didn't, because it brought me to where I am today. I went, from the time this accident was, and I got better, it went quite a few years. I started going to a gym. My brother got me a membership. Sam Kendall over there, he had Weight World out there, and I started going out there to a gym, and he started talking to me about God. And of course, I'm about 29 or 30 years old at this time, and your ears are starting to get opened up a little more, but not quite all the way yet. And so we was going out there, and next thing you know, my wife started coming in there. My wife now, she wasn't then, but anyways, I met her in there, and we started talking and everything, and she started telling me about God and salvation and everything, and we was holding some pretty good conversations on about that still. Well, anyways, we would talk about it and everything, and well, one night I had a dream. Well, I fell asleep. It was one afternoon I fell asleep, and it was kind of went into a dark trance, like, and it was like you died and you went to hell, and it was like, this is not an experience. When I woke, it was one of them quick things. It didn't go far into it, but it was quick enough that you woke up and you thought, I don't want to be here. And that's when I called and talked to her, or called her up. We weren't dating or anything yet. We were just kind of conversing back and forth, and we talked about different things, and that's when I gave my life over to Christ. I asked him into my heart, and as far as it was a different experience at the time. It wasn't no major change or anything, but it was like Chuck was talking in Sunday school when you had talked about the potter's wheel, and God is molding you as time goes on. I can look back now and see it was very. I can see Him molding me over the years. I met my wife. Of course, we dated for a while, and we were going to get married and everything, and we had God in our life. Both of us were saved and everything by this point, and we broke up. It was getting a little stressful. Everybody was trying to run this. We were trying to have a wedding, and everyone thought my mom was trying to do this, and everyone thought I should have this guy for a best man. Well, it got a little stressful, so we broke up for a while, and then we got back together. Probably it was a month or so. We got back together, and we started dating again. And anyhow, we got married, and we just decided we were going to go down to Winchester and get married. So that's what we did then. And over the years, I have to say, over the years, God has molded a lot in me, because we were going to church, and I heard a lot more about salvation. My ears were opened up, and you knew about Christ and Him dying on the cross and everything. But you have to, I don't know how to say this. As you were going along, I wasn't growing quite as much as probably you would like to. Everyone grows in different spurts. Until I started coming into Chuck's Sunday school classes when I really started growing in the Lord. And that's been, the last, I don't know how long I've been. It was before we went over to the new fellowship hall. I started going to Chuck's Sunday school class, and I really started getting more into the Lord and everything. And the biggest spurt, I have to say, is when we came here. I know most of you people over there at the church, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't know half of you people's names over there. Till we started coming here, I learned to know all of you, and I love it. There's no cliques here. It's one big clique. Everybody is one person here. I like that. And everyone talks to everybody, and to me that just gave you a shot in the arm that you wanted to be more into the Lord than what you are. And then when we started this church with Pastor Roy, that was another shot in the arm. I have to say, probably in the last year, I've grown more than I did in the last 30 years. I can't express enough but how much Pastor Roy and Chuck had as far as the past year goes, changing my whole life as far as growing more into the Lord. I mean, you used to go to church, and I mean, it was always a good message, whatever, but you'd sit there and I could fall asleep, be honest with you. I mean, you could fall asleep, or you could sit there and think about a fly on the wall, or you can do anything, you know. And but now it's like interesting. And if anyone doesn't come here, I mean, I recommend, hey, you come here and listen to Chuck and listen to Pastor Roy. They're two of the great teachers, two of the best people you can listen to as far as learning about God. And Chuck breaks down the Bible, and so does Pastor Roy. And I have learned more and probably studied more than what I have in the last 30 years. And I just want to thank everyone who's been praying for me. I appreciate it, because normally I wouldn't be able to do this. This is all has to do with God right here. I'd be a nervous wreck sitting up here talking to you about it. And you know, prayer does get answered. And I'm a little nervous. Don't get me wrong. Everybody's a little nervous, I think. But I still wouldn't be able to do this hard. My voice would be very, very bad right now. But yeah, I do appreciate Chuck and Pastor Roy, what you have done as far as in my life, as far as growing in the last year and everything. And that's pretty much my story. I don't know if I missed too much in it, and if that was enough in there for you, but it was an experience. I mean, I do not regret being. I have to say, I do not regret anything that has happened in my life. I mean, I'm glad everything happened the way it is. It brought me to where I am today and made me who I am. I don't know what I would be like if I would have been completely normal, because be honest with you, I was a party person back in them days. I mean, I worked hard, don't get me wrong. I worked hard. I put in a lot of hours in at work, but when you weren't working, you were out partying. I mean, that was not the way to go, and I think I'm clear different. And as far as salvation goes, I have a couple verses. Everyone knows pretty much John 3:16. For God so loved the world, He gave His only begotten Son, that who believed in Him shall have everlasting life. And I also like the Romans 10:9. If you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised Him from the dead, you will be saved. That verse right there really grabs you, because it says, if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart. That is the key, I think, today. You can mouth these words and not really go anywhere with it, but I really believe if you believe in your heart that you will be saved. I mean, you are going to go to heaven. And I think I want to see all of you there. You know? So, sure. I was never, I'll be honest with you, I was never angry with God at any time, because I don't believe, I really wasn't saved or anything. I knew about God and everything, but I never got mad at God as far as getting really mad at Him. The only time, I'll be honest with you, when I got mad at God is when we had to put my dog down 3 years ago. But I was mad at a lot of people at that time, because I was mad at myself, the vet, the God, because I was praying the dog would be fine. I don't really get mad. Can't have to say I don't really get mad at God, because I think you can't get too mad at Him. He's perfect. Yeah, I was never upset with God when that got hurt. I was just headstrong that I wanted to get better and be back in track again and get back to normal. I was going back to work I figured, they told me I'd have to be in rehab for 3 months. I said, fine, then I'm going back to work, but it was an experience. Well, I want to tell you one other thing. In the hospital, when I was in intensive care, I had a collapsed lung, and they had to come in and actually put a hole in the side of you and pump your lung up. Well, they had a sweeper hose down my throat. I called it a sweeper hose, so you couldn't talk or anything. And you had to move this thing around, and because the saliva would get caught in there. Well, this guy's coming over there, and he's cutting a hole in the side of you to pump this lung up. And I started wanting to grab that thing so I could move it around, and he said he's trying to push me away, and they actually tied my hands fast to the bed rail, because they thought I was being I was trying to get rid of him, or something, or have a problem with him. And anyways, I think but that time I was a pretty big built guy, and I was pulling them rails. I kind of bent the rails on the bed, trying to I thought I was going to die, honestly, at that time, because I thought I was going to choke to death, and he couldn't say anything. And first thing they said whenever they took that sweep, I called it a sweeper hose because it was so big. The first thing they asked, they said, "What do you got to say?" Because it was a whole week I couldn't talk or anything. I said, "I want the guy that put that thing in the side of my lung." I said, "I want him in here." So it was like I almost died over that. That's what I thought I was going to do. But there was a lot of experiences I had when I was in the rehab centers and stuff. But like I said, I don't regret any of it. I look back onto it as it's all a growing experience. I got married to my wife. I probably would have never met her because I would have never been out of the gym. I'd be too busy working, of course, or partying. And that's what I said. God works in your life. I think God works in everybody's life. It's always easy to look back and see that even before you're saved. But after you're saved, it's a whole different story after you're saved. That's the key. That's the key to it. And we know you're going to heaven. And someday we'll all be there. Is there any other questions? Yeah. I would have another one though today if I could ride it. I had a lot of fun on it. I went places that I would have never went. You can throw $3 back in them days when I was in 1980, and you can throw $2-3 worth of gas in a bike, and you can go all day long. And we used to put on holidays. We would take off on bikes. We would leave I'd get off work Saturday afternoon, go home, get a shower, and if like the holidays are on Monday or something, we would be gone and not come back till Monday night. We just go riding all the time. But they were a lot of fun, and but they are dangerous. It's like everything else. You can do anything. Like I said, when I was in that rehab center, guys fell off their porch and broke their neck. You got to feel bad for somebody like that. I've seen them guys. It's a terrible. I only wish I was saved back. It would have been nice if I was saved back then that you could have talked to some of those people too. We were all in there. I honestly think we were all. None of us was saved. I can honestly say that was in there because you can tell by talking to the people and how we were. And but now that I look back on it, I really feel sorry for a lot of those guys because they were really bad. When you're from your neck down and you have to have someone feed you and everything like that. It's a real experience to be there and see all that. And I don't know. I don't wish that on anybody. When that happened to the little Never girl over at our other church, when she got thrown off that horse and broke her back and she was paralyzed from her waist down, I really felt bad for her. And still, she was even a little worse off than I was because hers was totally. She was totally paralyzed, and she'll always be paralyzed from her waist down. Where I had I did have an experience where I got a lot of it back. And I could still move my legs where she can't move hers at all. But like I said, there's always someone worse off than you are all the time. And you just all you can do is pray for them. Is all you can do. But now other thing is I went along through the years. As you get older, things start falling apart. I went from short leg braces. Now I'm into long leg braces now because my knees went bad on me. But I can't stand it all. If I go to get up right now, I can just go straight down on the floor. You have to get up and lock everything in. I mean, I'm locked in when I walk straight-legged all the time, but I got God. I know where I'm going when I die, and that's the key to it all, and I can still get around. That's all that's important, and I do pretty much anything. You can ask my wife or Dale even attest to that. I do pretty much anything I want to do yet. I mean, it might take me a little longer. It does take me a little longer, and the older I get, the worse it gets. Dale come over one day. I know Dale come over one day, and he goes, I was out there weed eating my yard. Now, I take my tractor. People probably think I'm lazy. This is another thing. If they don't know me, they think I'm lazy because I'm out there with a weed eater hanging off the side of my tractor, driving around, weed eating my yard. So it's like Dale stopped one day, and he goes, I wondered how you would weed eat this over here. I said, there's always a way. But I did figure that out. I could get the weed eater and run that. I had to buy a lighter weed eater though, because it was getting a little too. One of them gas powered ones a little too heavy. But yeah, there's like I said, when I do anything, it takes me twice as long. But I really don't get excited anymore, and I just do. Hey, tomorrow's another day. We can finish it. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I went up to Hiram G. It used to be called Hiram G. Andrews Center. I think it's called Health South now. I had to go. I left there. When I left, I had one long leg brace, and I had one. Well, on the right leg, I had a long leg brace, and I had a short leg brace on the left leg. Well, about a year later, I go back up, and I thought this leg was getting strong enough, and I was walking with it. I had the locks taped open so I could walk with it and actually bend both legs. So I go up there, and the doctor was there, and I said, well, I'm here to get this cut down. I said, I would like to get into short leg braces, both short leg braces. And he's checking you over and going on, and finally he goes, he says, I don't think your leg's long enough or strong enough to go into a short leg brace. And I said, well, I think it is. And like I said, I wasn't saved. I didn't mince words with people back then. I pretty much told them what I thought. And anyways, I said, well, I think it is. I said, I'm sorry. So anyways, he wouldn't recommend it. So I go home, and I took a hacksaw, and I cut the brace off, and I went in. My dad knew Don Silly in town, Chili or Silly, whatever his name was. He was a shoe repairman. I took it in there, and he made me a strap for across the front of it. And I started walking on that. I did that for another whole year, and I go back to this doctor the next year for another checkup. And he goes, there seems to be a problem here. And I said, what's that? He says, you're supposed to have a long leg brace and a short leg brace. I said, well, you wouldn't give it to me before. So I go home, I took a hacksaw and cut it off. He goes, well, we'll just go ahead and write you up for 2 short leg braces. Like I said, I was very headstrong back in them days, to be honest with you. And I mean, it's probably what got me to where I was to getting better. And you had to do exercises. You had to do, I exercised religiously. Probably up to the past couple of years, I actually quit doing a lot of exercises because my shoulders are starting to go on me from walking. They weren't doing bad until I got into long leg braces because your legs was taking most of the weight, and then my knees went bad. Well, then I got into long leg braces, and when you're lifting, I'm lifting 200 pounds almost every time you're moving, and it started taking a toll on my shoulders. And I started using a wheelchair more at work. 8 hours at work is a little too long to be on your feet, so I started using a wheelchair now. But still, I have fun with that too. I mean, I can fly around the store. The people are, hey, you got to slow down. I said, hey, I'm going just as fast as everybody else walks, Because I try to keep up with some of those guys when they were going somewhere, like to a meeting or going somewhere together or back through the store. And man, you're rolling pretty fast. And it's like, hey, I'm not really going that fast. You're going as fast as everybody's walking, but it seems like it because you're in a wheelchair. But I have a lot of fun with it. And it's a lot easier. The other week, I came back from lunch, and just to give you a good example, the one manager back there, he's a great manager we got now, and I came back, and instead of getting in my wheelchair, usually when I go to lunch or something, I'll go home and take the dog out, and I'll come back, and we were real busy, so I'm there working around there, the phone's ringing and everything, and instead of getting in my wheelchair right away, I was just walking around there, and he turned around and looked at me and says, I think you need to get in your wheelchair. He says, you can move faster. I was always worried about them being upset about using a wheelchair, at work or anything, and it seems like they're more happy that you use it because you can do more and get around quicker and everything, but Walmart's been great as far as that part is. They never had a problem with me on that. And my job's been good. I can do that just fine in a wheelchair or walking around. So that's been a good thing for me. And I've had a few good jobs. I had when I worked at that little gas station out there where Molly's Ice Cream is. That was another thing there. Now that was saved by that point when I was working there. I worked with Terry Jack and Doug Thomas out there. I started out with Luther Miller's. Let me tell you the story of going back to work. I was off work for quite a few years, and I was married by this time and everything, and the kids were growing up, and I was sitting there, and we wanted to do a lot of things, and I said, I think I could go back to work and make more money than and everything by being on disability. Well, being that I was off work so long, that was a hard thing to go back to work because I put like 60 applications in 4 different counties around here, and no one even wanted to talk to you about anything. And I went into the disability or into the Social Security office one day, and I said, do you have any way that you have any connections that I could get a job? I said, no one wants to talk to me because I'm off work for so long. And they go, well, why don't you just try a part-time job or something, And I said, I need to make more money than a part-time job. They said, well, you can work on that and collect disability while you're doing part-time. You're only allowed to make so much money. I said, okay. Well, finally I went out to Luther Miller's out there at one time at the gas station, and Dick Baker was running that out there, and I went out there to see him. And I went in, I said, Dick, I'm looking for a job. I said, a part-time job or something to get started. And he goes, he says, can you pump gas? I said, I get my gas out here all the time. I said, I pump my own gas. I said, because they had self-service and full service. And he goes, oh, okay. And he goes, well, can you pump propane? I said, yeah, if you teach me how to do it. I said, I'm not stupid. I said, I can do this. So anyways, I was selling him on this idea of me working. He goes, well, can you do the paperwork? I said, I broke my back. I didn't hit my head. I said, I got a good head on my shoulders. So until we got done talking today, I thought sure he was going to tell me I could start tomorrow. I was that enthused about this. So it probably went a day or two. He said, well, I have to talk to Alan Miller about this. I said, well, hey, I'll sign any paper you want. I said, I'm not coming out here and going to fall and get hurt and sue anybody or anything like that. I said, I'm already messed up. I said, don't worry about that. I said, I just want to go back to work. And so it went a day or two, and he called me up and said, if you could start Monday morning. I said, hey, great. So that's how I got started there. And then Doug Thomas and Terry Jack took it over 2 years later, and they sold tires out of there. Well, anyhow, I started reading. They brought all these books in for these tires and stuff, and I started reading all this stuff. And I got to talking to people as they were coming in for gas and selling tires to them, and everything. And these guys were impressed because they didn't think I had any sales ability or anything like that, apparently. But anyways, I started selling all these tires, and then they decided to close the pumps down out there. And I said, well, I guess we're all going to have to look for a job. And he goes, yeah, everybody but you. And I said, well, why me? He goes, because you got interested in selling tires. He says, you're pretty good at it. He says, we're going to keep you here. So I got there, and a guy come in. Before we shut the pumps down, a guy come in, and he goes, well, I'll tell you what. He goes, if you get a few years experience in here, he says, you'll have a record of your going to work and everything. He says, you'll be able to go anywhere you want. Well, down the road, I had John Howard come up, and he offered me a job making more money than I was making now selling cars. So I went and sold cars for him for a while. And I don't really like selling cars, but John was a great guy to work for, and I really enjoyed working for him and everything, and he took good care of you. And I sold cars, and then his son took it over, and I knew that was going to go down the tubes when the son took it over, so I ended up going to Walmart, and I've been there for the last 12 years. And I've been a service writer out there. Well, I started out as on the registers up front, because I wanted to be back in the garage. Well, within 4 months I was back in automotive, and another year later I was in the garage. So selling their tires again. That's what I like, selling tires. Don't get me wrong. Y'all want tires? Come out to Walmart. We'll put you in a set. I have fun with my job, and I've been really having fun with it, with the Way of the Master here. I went through the Way of the Master class, and we were handing out. We got these $1 million bills. I was going up to people, hey, would $1 million make a difference in your life? And I was, oh yeah. And I said, well, I'm here to help you out. And I'd hand them this $1 million bill, you know. And I said, and on the back there, I said, then they say, well, this is a fake $1 million bill. And I said, well, what's on the back isn't fake. I said, that's true. There's a good Bible verse back there and everything to tell you. And I was handing them out and handing the little cards out that you have to play which one's smaller and which one's bigger. I was having fun with that out there. And people kind of look at you. When I started doing that, I have to tell you, everyone sort of looks at you a little different. I'll have to be honest with you. I was I want to say I was a Christian for the last 30 some years, but maybe you weren't as perfect as you. I mean, I'm far from being perfect yet, but you weren't as perfect as what you should be. You left the world you kind of left the world, you kind of blended in with the world a little too much is what I should say. And I can tell you, since the Way of the Master, I have been completely a lot different. And I think they notice that. They sort of watch what they say now around you. It's different, but I love it. You know, it's great. And I've actually had people come and ask me about God now already. So, and that makes a big difference too. I mean, it's great when you can talk about the Lord to different people. And the way the world's going, we need to get out there and talk to more. I mean, that's something we need to do. I'm only hoping that churches aren't closed again. I mean, we got to get out and spread the word and get people to go on the right track. I mean, we want to take everyone to heaven with us. We don't want to go just you don't want to just set yourself as you're going, and that's great, and not think anything of it. You got to think of other people that don't have Christ in their life. And if we can take as many along with us, that's the main goal for us. Is there anything else anybody'd like to ask, or? That's pretty much, honestly, I think that's because of my accident, possibly. I don't know. I don't think that I was that way before. I don't really think I was that way before. I was pretty easy to get along with, but like I said, I was pretty much headstrong, very bullheaded, and I lived the world. I mean, I was living in the world, you know, pretty much. And I was a pretty rough character back in the days. I mean, I wasn't afraid to. I mean, you could get into fights; it didn't matter. I mean, it didn't bother you any. And I didn't go out looking for fights, but I've been in a few, and tried to break up quite a few, and then you get into it, you know. But before I got hurt, actually, that's what I say. I honestly think that was probably the greatest thing that ever happened to me, and it started a path down the road where God was working in your life, but I was too dumb to see that. That was the problem. I didn't see that until at least it went probably 10 years after I got hurt, because I was almost 21 when I got hurt, and I was about 29 or 30 when I met my wife. And I started going to the gym out there, and they started talking to me about salvation. I never heard that in church before. I mean, we went over there. I never heard anything about salvation. They opened up the Bible, talked a little bit, a few verses, and you know, that was basically it. And like I told you before, my ears were opened up after I accepted Christ. And you heard I actually went back to my church that I went to. And that Sunday, I about fell fell on the floor because they actually were talking about salvation that Sunday. I thought I never heard that in this church before, and it was a Lutheran church, and they just basically, you went through the catechism, you went through and you joined church, and you went to church, and it was never, I don't know how to say it, it was never a moving experience as it is if you actually accept Jesus Christ into your heart and believe that, I mean, you have to believe, honestly have to believe that he died on the cross and to have it in your heart that he's there. And he'll work in your life. I mean, nothing's going to be perfect. You're going to have problems. You're going to have trials. And we discussed that in Sunday school about having trials. I mean, you're going to grow in those things. I know I grew from the experience that I have. I mean, I still have problems. I have a lot of issues, other problems that you don't discuss much with, but it's like you got God there helping you. He gets you through it. I mean, that is for sure. God will get you through everything. And it might not be in your time frame. We know that, don't we? We want everything now. I mean, that's the whole problem. Everybody wants everything now, but it will come eventually. And it might not come in the exact way you want it either. I mean, we've been talking about that too in Sunday school and everything. It's not always the answer that you want. But we're making it. I mean, if you got God in your heart and everything, you'll do all right in life. I have to honestly say that. And just keep smiling and keep moving. It's all you can do. Well, that's what we're hoping for. I'm going to be on Chuck's football team. That's why I'm going to be on Chuck. Chuck has said we get to heaven, we're going to have a football team.
Football team.
Yeah.